If you're still unsure about how to navigate iRacing's rain, then by the end of this video, I hope you'll feel a lot happier about it. Rain is now a part of iRacing and has been for a while, so I'm afraid we're now at the point of learn it or get left behind. Luckily, there is a logic to it that once understood you can get acquainted with, and if you've made the effort to get to grips with it and other people haven't, you will punch well above your weight and shine in challenging conditions, making it a lot of fun. I used my rain driving techniques to recover from a 12-second gap to the leader of this special event race, which was built up in the dry, to then take the lead 68 laps into a 70-lap race and win in the dire moments, all thanks to the rain. Let's break it all down so you can see how. This guide is supported by GT Omega. You can get 5% off their cockpits, seats and accessories using code DannyLee, such as for the excellent GT Omega Prime rig that I use. Check them out via the link in the description below. So picture the scene. The race has been under full dry conditions for around 50 laps, and due to some intelligent pit strategization by the leader and some awesome pace, they have built a good gap of around 12 seconds, a usually insurmountable advantage just by pace alone. But then the rain falls and everything changes. What follows is the formula I used lap after lap to crush the gap to the leader and take the win. As the lap starts and I swoop over the turn 1 hill, I set myself up for turn 2. I moved the car over to the inside of the corner off the usual racing line, which is very slippery in the rain. That gives me a lot of confidence to brake later and harder for the heavy braking zone. I brake on this inside area, but I'm also aiming to cross over that standard racing line and head out wide on the outside of turn 2, where there's also a high grip area, and I use that to sharply turn and cut back on the corner exit. As soon as I rejoin that usual racing line, the grip will drop sharply, so the aim is to complete as much of the corner as possible before I end up on there. Approaching turn 3, my plan is to skirt just wide of the racing line to put my outside tyres on the higher grip area of the track and slingshot round so I have the least amount of turning to do when rejoining that slippery line. Same for turn 4, delay turning just beyond what is normal in order to come off the slippery line. Get as much turning done as possible whilst I'm out there before rejoining the line. It's the same for turn 5. Delay turning till I'm off the line, skirt around the outside where the grip is higher, and rejoin the normal line as late as I can, preserving all my momentum and speed. Turn 6 ain't quite so simple. It's a fast corner and there's not much room to change it up and take alternative lines. At least none that are actually faster than just taking the usual route. So I just have to be careful, avoid going too fast, and hang on to that slippery line best I can. And as you can see by the tyre marks left by others, this isn't a corner where I should look to gain time. It's a corner where I should look to avoid losing it. Going up the hill to the corkscrew, I move the car over to the left, and as I swoop over the crest, my entry is similar to the turn 2 hairpin by doing the hard braking off the racing line. The traction is really good on this part of the track, so I can brake later with more confidence than if I was on the usual line, earning me quite a lot of lap time in this one section. I slow down a lot so I can really chop the apex and guarantee I make the corner, because sliding through the corkscrew and cutting the track slaps you with a hefty slowdown. Coming down the hill now, I am focused on getting over to the far outside of the track, ready to skirt around the outside of a turn. It's a horrible feeling to just launch into this corner and be so close to the outside of a track in the rain. Everything in your mind will be telling you that's a terrible idea, but that's just the best line for this type of corner in the wet. Riding the outside of a corner keeps the speed high and lets me cut back and rejoin the racing line with most of the cornering done. All I have to do now is hold onto the car for that last little bit and keep things stable. Turn 10, a lot like 3 and 4, delay the turn in, use the high grip line on the outside and sling the car around to rejoin the slippery line with the least amount of work left to do. The final turn, being a heavy braking zone, is best entered offline to help with confidence and braking power. Then I flick the car into the turn before I fully rejoin that racing line, and then coax it through the rest of the corner and power out. What you've just seen, I repeated over around 25 laps to take an unlikely win in this excellent special event, and I owe it all to staying open-minded to the rain and becoming comfortable with it. It was one of the most enjoyable races hosted by Sim Racing magazine, so go join their Discord community if you like the sound of stuff like this. And listen, whilst my tutorials on wet weather racing portray that there is a big difference in grip on or off the racing line, there is one last thing to mention briefly. Depending on the state of the track, the difference in grip between being on the racing line and off the racing line in wet weather can vary wildly. If the track is well used and is highly rubbered in, then the racing line can be distinctly slippery, and all the rules that have been shown to you throughout this video apply very well. But if the track is not currently well rubbered in, or is a green track as they might call it, then there is actually not much of a difference between being on or off the racing line, meaning that to be fastest around the track, you should actually use the normal racing line even though it's wet. I know, just as the rules of wet racing have been established, I sweep them away, but this is just the reality of rain. Sometimes you'll need the alternative wet line, sometimes you won't, and being able to feel that out will help you, but that's an advanced topic for another time, so to keep it simple, just remember this. In most wet track conditions, the racing line is no longer the fastest way around the track, and you must instead dance between the high grip areas on the track to emerge with the fastest route. You can watch my previous rain guard for a bit more information on all of this, but most importantly, subscribe to my channel for more general guides, tips and tutorials. Thanks again to GT Omega for supporting my adventures. Don't forget that 5% off code DannyLee if you should find yourself on their store, and thank you again for watching. Cheers!